This is J. Krishnamurti's second discussion with students in Amsterdam, 1968.
I don't know how you consider, sirs, recognizing that human beings have been conditioned through generation after generation for millions of years, how such a mind can break through, go beyond its own conditioning. I don't know how you have ever gone into that problem or you ever even thought about it. Because each generation revolts against the previous generation. Students revolt right throughout the world. And gradually they slip into another mold, into another conditioning. So there is always a little modified change, but the mind is heavily conditioned all the time. And is it possible to break through it? Can we discuss that? Would you like to discuss? Say one is born in Asia, in India, and their tradition being much older than here, tradition, orthodoxy, superstition, belief, family, and all that is very, very, very strong. That shapes the mind. And in that conditioned state one lives, struggling. It's like a prison, trying to be free, but never being able to get out of it. Now, how is one to uncondition it? How is one to go beyond its own limitations? Here you are, you're born in Holland, small country, recent war, the inheritance of Catholicism, Protestantism, a series of dogmas, beliefs, a society that is limited by the boundaries, and very little opportunity for the young. And there is this heavy inheritance. How is one to break through, to be free? There is the whole world of communism, including the religious world, that says freedom is not possible. Freedom is in heaven, but not on earth. The Catholics maintain that. So they brainwash the people and make them believe in God, in all that. And the communists do it in their own way. So, how can I or you, being conditioned, be free of it?
Is it possible to use the old tradition of conditioning as a start?
Beg pardon, I can't hear, sir.
Isn't it possible to use the old tradition as a starting place for doing the opposite thing?
the opposite thing. That is, we believe in, let's say what, I don't know what, something, and the opposite is non-belief of that. Is that freedom? Freedom implies freedom from belief, not freedom from one belief to another belief. From one cage to another cage is not freedom. And also, one can observe that this conditioning has come through constant struggle, battle.
We cannot live without battle, I think.
So, that's it. So, we say man, human beings cannot live without struggle, without conflict, both inside and outside. That's the accepted tradition. So let us take that one thing and go right through it. We have accepted, which is part of our conditioning, that man cannot possibly live without struggle. When you make a statement, he cannot live without struggle, all investigation stops. Right, isn't it? Whereas if I say to myself, let's find out if it is possible for human beings not to live in battle with each other and within themselves. That would be more rational, wouldn't it, than to block ourselves by saying it's not possible. What does it involve? To be in conflict and to be free from conflict. Those two we must inquire, mustn't we? What it means to be in conflict within oneself, and so with the neighbor, with the society, with the community, with the world. What does that mean?
That means when we believe we can another belief.
What's that?
Then we have one belief and another belief.
No, what does this struggle involve? What is the structure of this struggle? The nature of this struggle?
Being threatened.
Being threatened in what way?
The counter for maybe is the fact that we need food, we need drink, we need
All the rest of it.
Yes.
Food, clothes, and shelter.
Yes.
We need it. And so we have to battle to get it.
Mhm.
Right? Society is so constructed that each individual has to battle to have a house, right? Homes, house, shelter, and food. Why? How has this come into being?
Is it caused by the working of the mind?
No, sir. How does it come naturally? We have say that is, we have to struggle, we have to battle to have a job. A job that will give us food, clothes, and shelter. We have to battle.
Because there is not enough for all to have plenty of it.
That is, society is badly organized economically,
Not only economic.
which is partly economically, partly psychologically, culturally, traditionally, nationally, right? So, society, culture, all that is based on an idea that we must all struggle with each other to have a food, clothes and shelter. Right? That is the accepted traditional way. Right?
It's also the way in the nature.
What's that?
It's also the way in the nature. Animals has also a struggle for life.
Oh, animals also have to struggle, the gentleman suggests. But we are supposed to be human beings, a little more intelligent, and I don't see why we should not create a society where we can live differently. Is it possible for a society or for a human being living in a community to live differently? Not theoretically, but actually. The communists started out with a revolution which said no army, no government, the withering of the government, the withering of the state, all that. But actually it exists now, everything contrary to what they believed. There too, each individual has to struggle. Right?
Well, I think the whole system at the moment is too complicated for one individual to oversee the whole thing. So he feels it as a threatening on him, because it is a sort of big mess, and with one against it. And
Yes,
I
sir.
think
That's what we are saying.
I also want to say, when once there is the individual and the mess is again influencing the individual.
Yes,
So
yes.
it's going on and on.
So
Reaction.
we are asking, is it possible to live differently?
I think, sir, we human beings want to dominate each other.
Yes, sir, that's understood. That comes a little later. We'll go into that. But here is a question. As an individual, as a human being, can I live in this world or in different society which guarantees me my food, clothes and shelter? Why isn't it possible?
Are we not a few steps too far?
Beg pardon?
Are we not a few steps too far? Community. Let's take a child with parents. When a child is very little, it's already afraid not to be accepted or by a father
I know,
or by the mother, and there it starts.
I know, but please, madam, the moment you accept it as a natural thing, there's no problem. If we accept a way of life which is battle from childhood up till we die, the problem is non-existent. It is there. You accept it. But if you say, look, let's find out a way. Is there a
I wonder which role the time plays in this. I have to. I think we always think of tomorrow. I have to be safe tomorrow, or so. But we don't think what is at the moment. I think perhaps there's something in it.
I agree too, but that's a little bit, just let's explore it, let's go slowly, you see. Time is involved. That is, a change, a revolution, involves time. You see, and is it possible to change without time? That's another question, you see. You're interested in this?
Mr. Krishnamurti, we recognize the fact that human beings have to struggle. Before we can ask if we must accept it or not, I think we must ask the fact, is there another possible way? I want to say this. This struggle is caused by the fact, as far as we can see now, that one human being, and as a whole, the whole society, has more need then possibilities to satisfy those needs.
I don't think that is so. You can't satisfy.
Why not?
What do you mean, why not? I say it is possible.
It is possible.
I believe so. Scientists say so. It is possible, but we are divided into nationalities, into frontiers, into religious groups. You follow? This division of human beings into types, into races, into nationalities, into this division, that is what is preventing us.
Not only this.
That-
Absolutely not.
So just begin with that. Of course not. That's only just a beginning. You won't go step by step, you jump.
The solution could be in your own terms the mutation of the personality.
I'm coming to that, sir. We'll come to that. Here I am, a human being living in this world, struggling against you, in myself. Now, is there a way of living differently? That's the whole question, right?
There must be.
We'll find out, sir.
Why is it necessary to put things, feelings, to a religion, a Christian or what it is? Why must you?
Not why one must. It is so.
Yes.
Therefore, why am I? Therefore,
Feel the wind. Why can't you just see a tree as a tree and other things as they are? Why must?
we're coming to that, madam. Look, here I am. You won't go into this. Look, each individual is isolating himself through his greed, through his envy, through his bitterness, anger, right? You know what human beings are. And we have created a society representing ourselves as we are. This society is greedy, is envious, is based on aggression, acquisitiveness, right? Which is what you and I are. So, can I, as a human being, change, right?
Not alone.
Wait, sir, as a human being, let's again see. That question implies, what does it matter if I change, when the society is not changed, right? That's what's implied in that question. What's the good of my being non-greedy, non-envious and all the rest of it when the whole structure of society is based on this, right? Is that a valid question?
No.
Why?
Because you can only begin with yourself, not with the society.
Society is me. You follow? Of course it is me. The world is myself.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But the question.
So that's a wrong question. When I say, what does it matter if I am healthy? In a corrupt society, what does it matter if I am not corrupt? That's a wrong question, it seems to me. So, is it possible for me to change? And if I change, I can help others to change, right? And create a new society. Now, is it possible, follow it, sir, step by step, let's go into it. Is it possible for me to change?
How can we know that?
Huh?
How can we know that?
We're going to find out. Is it possible for me to change? Wait, what is implied? Look into it, what is implied? To change without conflict. right? If I change through conflict, I'll create a society based on conflict also. You're following all this? So I must change without any effort. Right? If I change with effort, please just allow me 2 minutes. If I change with effort, several things are implied in it. First, I must know what I am changing to. That means I must have time to become that. Right? I am violent. I must become non-violent. Please take that very simple. I am violent. Must change. I must become non-violent. That means I must have time. Right? Many days or many months or many years. And during that time, I am still violent. I am sowing this seed of violence while I am trying to become non-violent. Right? Right? You see that?
I don't believe so. I think when you're violent and you want to become non-violent, you become non-violent step by step. At first you will be more violent and less.
So that's what I mean. So you do it step by step.
And in the middle, the people around you see that you are more non-violent.
Yes, sir. That is, you do it step by step. Which means what? Take time. So what happens when you take time? I will gradually become non-violent. Yesterday I was less. Today I'm still less. Tomorrow I'll be still less. Which means what? I'm sowing seeds of violence. Little by little, less seeds. But there are still seeds of violence.
I think that's an effort.
Seeds of violence. Now, is there a way, is there a possibility of changing without sowing seeds of violence immediately?
To die.
Of course, that's one way out. So, huh?
To feel free.
No, not to see, madam. That becomes theory. Actually, look, I see this very clearly for myself, that having time between violence and non-violence, I am actually sowing, perhaps not so much, but little less, seeds of violence. So I say to myself, is there a way of ending violence immediately?
So why should we not kill, and why should we have consideration with people that are wounded and killed now?
Je n'ai pas compris, mais I haven't understood.
You didn't understand? I say it is so easy to kill. It seems to me that it is easy, even psychologically. And now I ask, why should we not kill, and why should we have consideration people that are killed and wounded?
Killing is easy. Why shouldn't we kill?
Oh, killing is easy. Why shouldn't we kill? Is that it?
That is it, yes.
All right, kill.
Yes, but
If you kill me, the police will take you. God knows. So, but we have to live that.
why do we especially want to be non-violent and not killing? I do not know whether I do not want to kill.
She says, what's the point of your talking about non-violence? What's so good about it?
Oh, no. No, madam. I'm not saying anything good or bad. I'm just stating that we have lived for so many million years killing each other, creating a society in which life is a constant battle. We're asking ourselves, is there a different way of living?
But what has that battle to do with me?
What has that battle to do with me?
But aren't you in battle with yourself?
Yes.
That's it. So we are asking whether it is possible to stop that battle within immediately.
Is it possible to express that answer in words which belong to the world of battle and non-battle?
Yes, sir, we're going to find out. You understand, sir? To change, we have accepted a tradition that to change, you must do it gradually, step by step. Take many years, but do it gradually. And one sees in thinking that way, there is the sowing of mischief. You follow? Sowing of anger, sowing of jealousy, and that goes on. That's clear? Then one says, is there a way of ending it immediately?
There are philosophers who think that if there is no battle, there is nothing at all.
All right, then battle, sir.
They say battle is the father of all things.
I know. I know lots of this phrase, these platitudes. I know this is very well known. You must battle, you must fight, you must, otherwise you are nobody, you must struggle, you must achieve, you must become a success, you follow? That's that's what we have accepted.
And even more, that when we do not battle, we will not get children, we will not make anything, because all things are battle some way.
So let us, is that so?
I do not know.
Is love a battle?
Well, maybe, yes.
Wait. Is love a battle?
Maybe.
What do you mean, maybe?
What kind of love do you mean?
I don't know. I love my wife or my children. Is that a battle?
Maybe in it.
Not maybe. You may not. Or you may, so if you're, some of you are married, aren't you? Or not? But don't you know it's a battle? No?
Something different.
What?
It's different. It's not a battle.
Oh, it's not a battle. May I show it to you how it's a battle?
You may.
Huh?
I'm 15 years married. I don't know if you love like that.
I'll show it to you, sir.
It's maybe a battle against the outsiders.
I wonder what you, how you're using that word battle. Of course, we don't mean you hit each other. We don't mean that you are kill each other. But there is a struggle, conflict. When my wife turns away from me, there is jealousy. That's one battle, conflict. When I want to dominate her, or she wants to dominate me, that's one other kind of conflict. When I, please listen to all this, when I go to the office all day, with my own ambitions, greed, envy, you follow, wanting to achieve competition, and she remains at home, I lead a different kind of life, right, you're following all this? And she also leads a different kind of life. There's a battle, conflict, right? No?
Yes.
Which are?
It's a sort of self-imagining that it is a battle. You know, it is a sort of product from your whole education. That
That just-
life is a battle, but I think you can, with the same force, say it's not a battle.
No.
And then there is also results from it. I mean, it's a sort of, well, you could give it a picture, a sort of state of your inner eye.
Yes, sir.
Just change
Yeah.
it.
Are we discussing theoretically or factually?
Well, it's a fact by me that it is like.
Let's be clear. Are we discussing in theoretically or actually?
Actually.
If we are discussing actually, what takes place in our life? A conflict going on all the time between myself and you. There's conflict now going on between us. Wait, sir, I'll show it to you how.
I mean, it's just saying what you mean conflict. A conflict is something where our results of the conflict, but when there are no results, any dangerous results, you can't call it a conflict, I think.
I wonder how we are using that word conflict.
No, I don't know.
What do we mean by that word? So look, I want to tell you something. I want to tell you that you can live without conflict. You won't accept it, right? You say, oh, that's impossible. Huh? I don't know how you can live such a life without dying. So you are resisting, aren't you? Right? Right? So when you resist, obviously there's conflict, there's struggle. I resist my wife, and my wife resists me. This is life. Right? So is there a way of living without resistance? Now I say there is. Not as a theory, actually, daily life. I say there is a way of living without conflict. Now, look, what does your mind say? Say, no, that's not impossible. He's a charlatan, he's deceiving himself, he's idiotic, he's cuckoo, and so on. Or you say he has achieved some supernormal state and he lives there. So you're resisting, right? Or you say, well, that poor chap, he's talking some Oriental philosophy and escaping to some mysticism and living there, which is absurd, which is also another form of resistance. So can I live in this world without any resistance, knowing resistance is conflict, right? Shall we find out? Would you like to find out?
Yes.
Huh? Right. Now you give your mind to this, right? You understand? Give your mind on how to find out. Not theoretically, but actually, when you leave this room, you live without any resistance. Right? Do you want to go into it so deeply?
Yes.
All right, sir, it's up to you. Which means what? Why has a human being developed resistance?
To protect himself.
Protect himself against what?
All the influences of society.
Huh?
All the influences of society.
But the society is my creation. Society is the creation of human beings who are greedy, envious, brutal, fearful, wanting security for themselves and not for anybody else. It is what I want, I have created. Right, sirs? So I can't blame the society.
I think, sir, deep inside, all of us are very frightened.
But we'll come.
But when I go out, I have to walk, and that's resistance against...
No, come, sir. We are using psychologically the word resistance, psychologically, inwardly. We resist. You...
Can I know why I do it?
we are going into it, sir.
We have created all this just because we are afraid of being ourselves. That's too much of a step for us.
Are you frightened by any chance?
Of course, who's not?
Huh?
Mister, a human being doesn't only have a mind, he has a body too.
But
And
sir,
that body is very vulnerable.
I know, sir, I know all this. Wait. We said just now that you would go into this very seriously, right? To find out. And I said, let's do it. To do that, one must find out for oneself why you and I are acting, thinking, feeling in a self-centered way. Right? Why am I thinking about myself all the time? My interests, my position, my security, my progress, my character, my body, you follow? Why am I so self-centered?
Perhaps we are in prison in our own bodies and minds.
Yeah, I agree. Why? Why do you think about yourself all the time? Please, huh?
No, nothing better to do.
What? We have nothing better to do than to think about ourselves? Is that it? No, that is the first fact, isn't it? That each one of us thinks about himself most of the time. That's a fact. That isolate ourselves, isn't it? When I'm thinking about myself all the time, I build a wall around myself, psychologically, right? So, I separate myself against you, who are also separating yourself against me, right? Isn't that so? I am thinking about myself, my progress, my wealth, my prosperity, my happiness, my belief, my God, my state, my me, right? And you are doing exactly the same. So, you are concerned about yourself and I am concerned about myself. You are not interested in me, I am not interested in you. Right? So there is conflict between us, right? That's a fact. Now, why do I think about myself? Because I'm afraid of what?
Things I don't understand.
Because I do not know myself.
No, sir, don't make statements unless you...
Maybe.
No, don't say maybe. That's no good. Why am I thinking about myself?
I think we have learned to think about ourselves from childhood.
Now, right, we think about ourselves. And if we don't, what would happen? First of all, I think about myself because I am born in a society. I am educated from childhood to think about myself, right? The position in the class, the examination, the passing, the competition, the comparing. You follow? The teacher says you are not so good as that boy. Be as clever as that man. So education, society, culture, everything is forcing me to think about myself.
But if I don't care...
It is not if you don't care. You do care, otherwise you won't be thinking about yourself.
You are thrown away if you don't care. As a child, don't care what the master says. You are not so good as the other one. Or what your father, your mother says. You are...
But what happens if you don't care? You can't pass the exam and therefore can't get a job, can't go to college. Therefore you say you have got to compete. Therefore you say I must compare myself with another in order to be as good as him. So please observe this simple fact that education, religion, culture, society, everything around you is making you, conditioning you to think about yourself. Right?
Yes, sir, I agree with you, that you say. But perhaps I may say have some experience to lose all these things. You say that. I hope I can make me understand. My English is not so best. But life becomes very, very difficult. And to me, have an experience. I lost everything, but mostly there becomes nothing new to me. Can you understand me?
Not quite, sir.
There is a great emptiness in me. I don't like all these things you say, yeah. But to change, to let it change, have an experience that is very, very difficult. For often I'm just living in an empty, sphere.
Yes, in emptiness. I understand, sir.
Yes. And there are many things in me that don't will that. There is a big resistance against that emptiness.
I understand, sir. I get it. But I think that let's go again.
Other things is myself. When I see a tree, there's a beautiful tree, but it is a response of myself, isn't it?
Of course, sir. We are talking of something very clear and direct, which is why does a human being think about himself? Why? And this is the cause of it, isn't it? The ego, which wants to assert himself, wants to dominate, and so who says, I must fulfill, I must become great, I must be famous, I must do, I must this, that. All that indicates this self-concern. Because we say it's the result of wrong education, a society that forces you to think about yourself, and so on. Now, we know more or less, we can go much more in detail, but would not be worthwhile. So there is the cause. Now I say, is it possible for me, brought up wrongly, educated foully, to change? Stop thinking about myself.
I think it's by revolution. I think that it's by revolution.
That is by revolution. This what?
Evolution.
Evolution.
Yes.
Which means time.
No time.
Huh?
No time.
Of course. Of course.
Revolution, she said revolution.
Revolution.
Sorry.
A revolution. Now, will you change immediately?
Yes, that's the way out, I think.
Huh?
Yes, that's the way out, I think.
Not you think. Can you do it?
No, I can't.
And therefore, that's a theory. My Lord.
It happens. It happens.
Huh?
It happens.
How does it happen?
Tell us.
You won't listen. You must. You say, tell us. Go into it step by step, sir. You will do it yourself. So, I see why I think about myself. And I see that time, that is, gradually, is no way out. Right? I see it. Not theoretically, but actually I feel it. That's not the way out.
Do you really know why you think about yourself?
I do. First of all,
So why do you think about yourself?
it's a great deal of pleasure.
That's one answer. But you use the word to compete, to achieve knowledge, etc.
Of course, of course.
But, excuse me. When you or me are put in a jungle.
And we are not in a
No,
jungle.
please listen.
I won't, sir, I won't discuss theoretically. We are not in jungle.
I'm not dividing. At least I'm trying not to do so. The only thing I want to say is that even if there is no society, a human being always has a milieu. You understand what I mean by that? And that milieu always asks him, his surroundings, yes, thank you. His surroundings always are asking him questions. And the human being must always answer. If he doesn't answer, he dies instantly. And therefore he is forced to think of himself.
No, sir,
all the
that
time.
is. So we are receiving challenges all the time.
Yes.
Wait, sir. All the time. And a mind that is isolated, concerned with itself, cannot respond freely and fully to the challenge. Of course, this is obvious.
A mind can only recognize the challenge when he sees the relations between the challenge and himself. So he must think about himself.
No, no, sir. Sir, look, the modern world, look at it. The modern world says you must unite.
You must?
Unite. That's the only political problem. All human beings must unite. Not Asia, Vietnam, America, Russia, but it says, the challenge says, come together, live together, cooperate together. That's the challenge. Otherwise you're going to destroy yourselves, right? Why don't we do it? Why don't we cooperate?
Because there are other challenges that forces it. Other challenges that force us.
No, that is the, no sir, that is the major challenge. politically in the world at the present time.
Maybe for a politician. But
Ah, no.
Not for the individual.
Oh, yes, it
Yes,
is.
no.
Sir,
He talks about it, but he does nothing about it.
because we don't know what to do.
And why don't we know what to do?
Because we haven't gone into it. We haven't seen the problem.
Yes, each individual has seen the problem. I'm sure of that. He has seen it.
If he has seen it, sir, then he doesn't belong to any group. He has no nationality. He does not belong to any church, any group, any religion. He has no.
Those are not the consequences.
Let's go on. So let's go on with where we were before this introduction. We were speaking about self-enclosure. Why one thinks about oneself.
Yes.
And is it possible?
I'm doing that. Now, I am enclosed. I am thinking about myself as you are. Myself having my opinions, my judgments. My judgment is better than your judgment. Right? And so on and on and on. And I'm thinking about myself because partly education, partly religion, right?
Yes.
Partly society, the family, the name, all that. And also it's the tradition that has been handed down for generation after generation to say, think about yourself. Now, I see that as a fact, not as a theory. And I see that time is not going to solve this. Right? Therefore, there must be complete, immediate revolution or mutation when I stop thinking about myself. Right? Now, how does this mutation come into being? Right? Can we discuss that?
Yes.
Keep to that, please. Stick to that one point.
Each changing takes time, isn't it?
Huh?
Each changing takes time.
Time. Therefore, time is no way out.
So there's no changing.
No changing, that's right. So how can I, who is so conditioned, change immediately? Now, this is a challenge to you, right? Right? How do you respond?
Sir, if I don't think about myself, do I think about anything else?
No. To think about something else except myself is also to identify myself with that something.
I think so, yes.
So it is. What comes after we'll go into. If I don't think about myself, what action can there be in which there is not myself? That comes little later. You follow? But I must first put this question to myself, which is, as time is not the way to change, and radical change is only possible when time doesn't exist. Right? Are you following this? So I have to find out why time is not important. Because my whole brain is built on time. You're following all this? My brain cells, the mind, is the result of time, of millions of years, based on self-protection, because I've lived in a jungle, lived in a society, and so on, so on, so on. So you protect yourself first. That's the response of the brain cells. You're following all this? So the brain cells themselves have to undergo a change. Right? So how is this mutation to take place?
First the mutation and then the change.
No. Mutation means change.
Isn't the first step not to attach yourself anymore into anything?
I understand, so of course, that's obvious. Not to become a communist, socialist, Catholic, this or that. All that's gone. Right?
But also step out.
Not be committed to anything. Right?
Is this a means or a consequence?
Yes, sir, that's right.
Is this a means or a consequence?
Consequence, not a means. I see when I commit myself to something, I am identifying myself with that something. When I become a communist, instead of becoming a Catholic, I am still the same who have identified myself with that ideal. That's fairly clear. Shall we go on from there? So I am not going to commit myself to anything. Though all the writers, all the teachers, all the priests, all of them say, you must commit yourself. Right?
No, I don't follow. My question was, is this non-commitment a result of this mutation, or can it ever go in advance of the mutation?
No, sir. I see that to bring about a mutation, not to be committed, I must be free. Huh?
But it's again a vicious circle. You
No,
can't be free.
no, it's not. I see it. No, sir, just a minute. We must go into this little closely. I see what commitment involves, right? Right? That's clear, isn't it? Huh?
Self-thinking. Self-enclosure.
It is a self-identification with an ideal. An identification with a communist ideal, identification with a Catholic belief, dogma, and all the rest of it, right? So, when I commit myself to something, I have identified myself with that. But that is still me. Right? So, that's merely a trick. When I commit myself to social welfare, to social good, it is still myself.
Aren't we doing that with the mind too?
Of course. So I see one of the fallacies is to be committed to anything.
If I now just say, well, I won't do it.
Finished.
Oh, no, not. I would be exactly the same.
No, Habitsa. Therefore, in what way do we see this? Intellectually or actually? When I say I will not be committed to anything, is that a theory, an idea, or is it as actual as when I am hungry? I want food. You follow, sir? Which is it? If it is merely a theory, then it is no value. But if I say, I see this, I feel it, it's in my blood, my heart, my mind sees that fact, then it's gone out of me. Right? So, I have found something, which is when I see something with my whole being, my heart, my mind, my body, my nerves, see it actually, then it goes away from me. Right?
Goes away from you?
Huh?
It goes away from you?
Ah, you haven't followed.
You said...
Yes, madam, I'll explain what I mean. I see, not intellectually, not verbally, that to be committed to anything is to be identified with that thing as myself. Right? Now, what do we mean by seeing? Which means understanding. Which means I have seen it, the truth of it, and therefore it no longer holds me. Right? Right? When I see something as poisonous, it's finished. Right? This is difficult, see? We are doing it, sir. We are doing it. Just watch it, sir, for a minute. Just watch it. I'll show it to you. That is, sir, I make a statement. Don't be committed to anything. That's a challenge. If you listen to that challenge with silence, you follow what I mean? Then there is a change. There is a complete mutation biologically. So look, there is the old brain which responds immediately to everything. Right? I hit you, you hit me back. I say you're a fool, and you say you're a greater fool. So the old brain responds instantly, right? Now, if that old brain can be kept quiet for 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, you follow, instead of responding immediately, then there's a new operation going on, right? Wait, sir, go into it. You will see it yourself.
So before we spoke about commitment, we had reached the point where you said, how can you stop thinking about yourself?
Yes, sir, that's what we are doing. So I see commitment is an escape from myself. But the escape only leads to myself in a different way, right? So that is not the way out. So that goes from me altogether. Right? I won't be committed to anything. Therefore,
why not if it is pleasant?
Huh?
Why not if you see that you like it really?
Why not if it's pleasant?
That's what we're all doing, that, sir. I like the idea of killing others, and I'm committed to that. It gives me great pleasure. I like the idea that I can dominate you. I'm committed to domination. It gives me great pleasure. So that's not the way that... So, I see why I think about myself, and I see that in committing myself to some course of action or to belief or to an ideal is still myself. Therefore, I won't do that. I see it clearly. Therefore, it is gone from me. Right? I won't become a communist or a Catholic or a Protestant or a Hindu, right? I won't join any other thing. So what has happened? I refuse the traditional escapes, right? Is that clear?
Yes, but I thought there were people who needed to put feelings in God. There are people who need. I thought that when they feel something,
They must put into action.
yes, they must give words for it. They must.
I know, I understand that. But your feeling may be wrong. Yes. That's why we're all in that state, unfortunately. I feel I want to do good, therefore I become a communist. I feel I want to help people, therefore I become a Catholic. Or join a society that promises to help people. So, please, then what have I done when I do not commit myself to any cause of action, to any particular belief, to any ideal? What has happened to me? One says, what's happened to you?
You're free.
No, not yet. No, don't jump into it. Don't jump into it yet, sir. Look at it carefully. Go slowly.
You are still committing yourself to it.
Now, what has happened to me when I refuse to follow all the traditional ways? But don't answer me, please. Do look at yourself. I don't obey. You follow? Anybody. I have no authority. I don't accept any authority. Of course, except in the scientific world and all the rest of it, that I mean, psychologically. So what happens? What happens? I can tell you, but what happens to you? Huh?
You'll be a free man.
You lose fear.
Conflict? How can there be conflict?
You stop thinking.
No, sir. Do it. Do it. You will see it. Do it.
Becomes a great stillness.
No, sir. Do it. For God's sake, don't talk. Sir, let me put it to you the other way. What happens to you if you don't belong to Catholicism, Catholic dogma, in Italy, at Rome? What happens to you when you say, no, I'm not a Catholic?
What do you mean, sir?
You lose the possibilities of escaping.
You lose the possibility of earning a livelihood. People won't say, they'll be cruel to you, right? They will talk about you, against you. So what happens to you? You are alone, aren't you? Huh? For God's sake, you are alone, aren't you?
No.
What, when you can't get a job, when people are against you? You're isolated, aren't you? Huh? And you're frightened of that isolation. Right? So there begins fear. Fear to be alone in a world that is murderous. Right? That's brutal. So you say, by Joe, I'm afraid to be alone. Therefore, I'll commit myself to something or the other. I'll become a Catholic, I'll become a Capelloni, something or other I'll become. Right? Now, can I face that fear and face it immediately and be free of it? All right, you're following this? All right, I don't mind being alone. What of it? You are alone anyhow, right? In your daily life now that you lead, you are alone. Because you're fighting each other. And I said, all right, I won't join this jungle. I don't mind being alone. And then I'm afraid. All right, I'll face it. I'll understand that fear. Now, what produces fear? No, madam, do look at it. I have to explain that. I have living in a society where you become like the rest of the group, and I refuse to become like the rest of the group. And I'm frightened. Please stick to that point. I'm frightened. I may lose my job. People will talk against me. I shan't be able to marry a Catholic whom I love. And so on and on and on. I'm frightened. Now I say to myself, what causes fear? Listen to it, sir. What causes fear? Fear of what might happen, right? Might lose the job. I might not marry the girl I want to marry.
Marriage is also an escape.
What?
Marriage is also an escape.
Marriage is also an escape.
Marriage is an escape.
Oh, that's it. Don't. We won't go into marriage now, for God's sake. So, I'm frightened. That is, I am frightened of what might happen, right? Right? That is, I am thinking about the future. Tomorrow, I might not be able to marry that woman or that man, or I might lose my job, and so on. That is, thought says, be careful, right? Are you following all this? Thought says, be careful, old boy. Protect yourself. Don't isolate. Don't become alone. Belong to the whole group. Walk with the rest of the sheep. You follow? Follow them. Obey. Do everything they're doing. Otherwise you are lost. So thought says that. Right? Right, sirs? You're following this? So thought is responsible for fear. Right? Of what might happen, what might people say, what they will do to me. That is either in the future or in the past. Thinking about the past, how I was secure, and why the blazes have I allowed myself not to be committed. So thinking about the past or thinking about the future breeds fear. Right?
I'm thinking about myself where we were.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about that, right? So I have to say, why does thought come into this at all? You understand what I mean? Am I explaining myself? I see the fact, I see the fact that to be committed to anything is to be myself still, right? And not to be committed means to be alone. And I'm frightened. And thought says, be careful. So I discover that thought engenders, breeds, cultivates fear.
Did you suppose I always think I never feel?
She always thinks and she has never
You
fear.
suppose I always thinks I never feel?
You can't, if you think, you also must feel, because I feel the danger of losing my job. Please, so, thought breeds fear. And that's the only instrument I have. Right? I have thought. And thought has bred fear in me. Right? No? So I say to myself, by Jove, can thought be quiet? It is thought that says, be careful to me. It is thought that has made me think about myself. Thought which has been conditioned, which has been cultured, which has been educated, which has lived in a society in which every man is in conflict with the other. And that very thought says, be careful, don't be frightened. You get frightened, therefore stop. Don't do. Don't act. Differently. Be like a machine. Accept the tradition. Walk the way of the others. So can thought be quiet, which is not to think about myself at all. I don't know if you're following all this. Can thought be still and look? Not thought, just look without thought. That is, to look at the whole structure of being committed to something silently. I don't know if you're following all this. When I look at something silently, that is, with the light of silence, I see things very clearly. There's no conflict. There's no fear. So I'm free. There is freedom. I can, then it's possible to live without conflict. Right, sirs?
You mean all the time, sir?
And, you see, when you say all the time, you're introducing time factor, which is another form of greed. What I am concerned is it possible to live without conflict? And I say it is. There will be conflict as long as you are using the old brain, which is the biological instrument of time. And thought is always old. There is nothing new in thought. So when life presents a challenge, say you must live entirely differently, unite, be cooperative, love one another. A thought says, yes, it is an idea and I don't know how to do it, let's find out. So thought, which is old response to the challenge. I don't know if you're following all this.
I don't think we can follow you for we are thinking. So.
Yes, you're quite right. So when you listen with silence. And when you see that tree, see it out of silence. And you see the difference. So beauty, it's not merely the structure of a building, or the painting, or the pictures of Leonardo, Michelangelo, or any other person. It is not there. I don't know if you're following all this. You see something beautiful only when the mind is absolutely quiet. The other question is it possible to love without thought? And is thought capable of loving? Right? I don't know if you want to go into that question. Therefore one asks, perhaps it's time, we'll pick it up another day, is love pleasure? We don't say it, please think carefully, go with me slowly. I'm not denying pleasure. But I'm asking, is love pleasure? And don't say no. If you say no, it's merely a theory. But all our values, all our moral judgments and morality, ethics is based on pleasure. I'll give this up in order to have greater pleasure. I love you because you give me physical pleasure, sex, or you give me comfort, or companionship, or I depend on you. And I love you, and yet I'm jealous of you. That is, you must not look at another man. You are mine. That's the guarantee of marriage. So, is love jealousy? And we are jealous. And when I say I love you, we don't mean it. So this is an immense problem. So it's not just agreement or a disagreement. Because there again, we are thinking about ourselves. My ambition, my greed, my success, and she's doing the same. And we meet in bed. And I say, I love you. But I'm isolating myself from her, and she is isolating herself from me, because she has her problems, and I have my problems. I don't know if you're following on this. And so love becomes merely a convenient word. And violence takes its place. And then we say, I must get rid of violence. You follow, sir? And so on and on and on. time is it, sir? You better stop, don't you? Can we go on? When do we meet next?
Tuesday.
On Tuesday, can we?
At 5.
Tuesday at 5, can we go on with this question? With that question, we also should discuss what is action. The action that we now do is out of self-interest. Isn't it? Obviously. I have an ideal, but that ideal is my projection. And I act according to that because it pleases me. So we have to inquire, find out what is action and what is love. The two go together. We'll discuss it, right?